Oh, we got to behave.
Here we go. We'll admit all. Hello, folks. It's great to be with you. I hope you're having a really wonderful day. It's time, back to school time. I know classes, some folks even this week, I know they're back, but everybody's sort of gearing up. I hope everyone is doing well. They're taking care. I know Northeast Ohio, some tough storms came through the state. What they call risk management, insurance. It's an important topic in financial literacy, but so much happening in the world today around financial literacy. I was actually just looking, a new report just came out. They said, what, 30% of Americans don't have an emergency account. Um, the massive data breach, almost every Americans, they were saying may have been impacted with the loss of personal identifying information. But it's a really relevant topic. It's an important topic. And we have got a team of experts, a team of folks joining us today they're going to share with you some how they organize their class and some of the resources and tools that they're using in order to bring financial literacy to life for their students. But again, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you for our back to school teaching financial literacy seminar session. If you could, a few things, just opening notes, just maybe mute yourself at the beginning. Towards that last quarter, we're just going to have an open forum where we're going to invite your questions, your comments, your feedback that you'd like to share with the group. But before we get there, after you just mute your microphone, please introduce yourself in the chat room. Um, Tell us, where you're from, where do you teach, what subjects, what grades you're teaching. And as we traverse along this journey together today, please feel free to ask questions, to share resources. We'll be monitoring the chat room as we go forward. But great that you're with us. We're really excited. My name is Dr. Brad Muth, professor in the LeBron James Family Foundation School of Education. And I'm so humbled and I'm so privileged to serve as the director of the H. Kenneth Barker Center for Economic Education. This is year 20. Oh, they fly by, I'm telling you. It's what a journey and what a blessing it really has been to serve this honorable title of teacher in order to get to know students and families and see them grow over the years. Um, so at the University of Akron, we've got this jewel, this gem, the H. Kenneth Barker Center for Economic Education, which was born in 1974, a collaboration between the Northeast Ohio industry community, the business community, and educators that were committed and driven to making sure that we support, we champion, we outfit, we support the teaching of economics and financial literacy in schools, in classrooms. So the H. Kenneth Barker Center for Economic Education is really focused on helping K-12 teachers teach financial literacy, teach economics in the classroom. So we have had a lot of professional development over the years. We have our workshops, our virtual workshops, our on-campus workshops. We have our teacher institutes, our conferences, our study tours where we take teachers to different countries to learn about topics in economics and finance. But our big areas lately have been financial literacy, financial education. With Senate Bill 1, I know that it's been an important part of the financial landscape across Ohio schools and making sure that students are prepared, teachers are prepared, and we're ready to deliver high quality financial and economic education. So all of the programming we do at the H. Kenneth Barker Center for Economic Education is tied and aligned to the Ohio Financial Literacy Standards. So this is the last week of a teaching financial literacy class that I've been teaching at the university for graduate students. We're finals week. We've arrived for this summer class and I'm winded. I'm exhausted. There's just so much content in financial education. So whether it's teaching about credit and debt or risk management, insurance, balancing budgets, financial decision making, investing in the stock market. There's just this gamut. So I'm so excited that we have some experienced educators with us today to talk about how do they sequence, how do they organize content, and what are some things they've learned over the years from bringing this to life in their classroom. To get the conversation started, though, I need to introduce all-star graduate student I have the privilege to work with in the H. Kenneth Barker Center, Mr. Malachi Fleming, who is actually starting his first year this year teaching. So just really, really, he's pretty amazing, pretty special, really excited for him. Hey, Malachi.
Hi, everyone. Dr. McGuth gives me so much more credit than I deserve. I'm going to start. We're going to have each educator on the panel introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their teaching experience, the grade that they teach, the content, and after that, we'll move into some questions about their syllabus and some projects and some resources that they've used or do use in the classroom, and then we'll move into an open Q&A section where those on the call can ask follow-up questions or maybe just poke their brains about some ideas that you might have that you want to get their input on. So we'll start with Yvonne, and we'll go down the list and just introduce yourself, and then I'll ask the first question. I think you're muted, Yvonne.
Thank you. Sorry. Welcome, everyone. My name is Yvonne Fedoronic, and I am a retired high school and middle school teacher. I spent my last 2 years at the middle school level after 28 years of teaching high school. And I am now currently an adjunct professor at the University of Akron, and I teach a course called Teaching Personal Finance, PK through 12. So my hands are still actively involved in educating our soon-to-be teachers on really, really good methods, or hopefully good methods to teach the content. So welcome.
Hi, I'm Cindy Schultz. I am a graduate of the University of Akron way back in the late 80s. I have taught in the Akron, well, I was at Cuyahoga Falls, but then I took time off for my children. I did other things in education. And then I've been teaching for 8 years now at Toledo Public Schools at Royce C. Start High School. I teach personal finance, and I find that really valuable because I was the oldest of 6 children. And as you could probably imagine, it was kind of chaos. So I always wanted to not have to move back home. So I've always been really conscious, and I have to, a lot of it to Barb Heinzerling, who was a professor at the University of Toledo. And she really taught me a lot about consumer economics. And, like I had the O'Neill's credit card and JCPenney's credit card, and man, I paid those suckers off after having her class. I wish I would have paid a little bit more to the investing part of it. But so I've been in not Cuyahoga Falls. Sorry, I told you I want to get back there. I've been in Toledo Public Schools for 8 years. Personal finance has been required at Toledo Public Schools. So when the state initiative was coming through, I was in tune to it, trying to encourage people, but we already had the mandate in my school. And it really, I wanted to say, was a challenge for some students who transferred in their senior year, because a lot of times too, when they transfer in, especially in the inner city, they're already credit deficit and whatever. So that's what I do. I have some things that I want to share with you, and I want to just encourage you to have fun teaching it and share your stories.
Hi, everyone. My name is McCall McClelland, and I am a adjunct faculty member at Columbus State Community College. I teach people of all ages at a community college, but a very special population also just touches my heart, which is the grade 7 through 12 population, which we sometimes get through our College Credit Plus program. So I've been teaching at the collegiate level for I it's about 7 years now. And before that, I've taught personal finance on a volunteer level in different nonprofits throughout the city of Columbus. I have a background in finance and business. I graduated from Columbus State Community College, as well as Franklin University and Ohio Dominican University. And I hope to bring I guess a different perspective from being a college level professor teaching personal finance specifically. So happy to be here. And thank you for being here too.
Yes, thank you to all of our speakers. I'm so glad you all are here. We have a wide range of experience, middle school, high school, at the college level. I think we'll stick with that same format of going Yvonne, Cindy, Macau. Can we just talk about how we kind of outline our class, how you scope and sequence the standards that you're going to teach, kind of the topics that you want to teach in what order, and then especially because not that many students have that much experience in financial literacy and education, what type of expectations do you have on your students, whether you're teaching a intro class or a more advanced level class? You're muted.
Sorry about that. So for the scope and sequence, of course, we have our 6 topic areas in the Ohio content standards. They are adding, and they're not in our written content standards yet, but they are adding an additional 2 in market capitalism and entrepreneurship. It frightens me a bit to try to think about how to get through all of that material in a semester course. But I think that one of the things that I have found over my years of teaching is that I concentrate on the things that I think are the most important for our students. And so when we talk about the content standard of insurance and risk management, sure, the kids need to understand what is risk management. It's just managing the risk that I'm going to take, and I'm taking risks every day in my life. When I walk out my front door, there's a risk. When I get in my car, there's a risk. And so we have to teach them to manage. But there's so much in the insurance realm that you have to, in my mind, I focus on the things that I think are the most important for my students at that given time. And so I really focus in that area on the auto and the rental insurance, because those are the things that are most applicable to them. And when I think about teaching, I always think about make it relevant, and make it realistic, and make it relatively entertaining. Because when the kids see or hear the word financial literacy or finance, they automatically associate it with boring. They associate it with math. And a lot of kids are afraid of math. And so we have to make sure that we are able to grab the kids' attention and do some interesting things. There's so much in the standards. I really do go through them. There are some things that I think need to be, and I'm very vocal about it. Like, I don't hide my opinions. I think there are some of the things that really need to be revisited as we get into the type of technology that's available to our kids, like balancing a checkbook. Do the kids need to understand that I need to know what's in my checkbook? Absolutely. Do they need to know how to go through a checkbook register and balance it? No, because we work on real time now, and they look at their phones and it's real time. It's not like, oh, I did this debit transaction, it's not going to show for 5 days. It's not how the world is now. It automatically processes through their account. And so they can look at their phone. And so there are some things that I choose to focus on and some that I choose not to spend a lot of time on. Malachi, what was the other part of it? Kind of scope and sequence and
then just thinking about from intro level classes to even higher level higher level classes, what expectations do you have for your students when they come in?
Oh, I love that. That's so interesting, because I taught middle school finance, I taught high school finance, and now I'm teaching college level students to teach personal finance. And I really thought when I started to do this that I was going to be teaching methods of teaching. When I went into that first semester of teaching at the university, I thought, okay, good. These kids are going to really know what they're talking about. And I'm just going to really try to help them learn how to teach those things in a relevant and realistic and relatively entertaining manner. But no, I found out that I was going to be teaching them the concepts also, because even at the university level, I found that my kids did not have the adequate information. And so hopefully now that this is mandated and all kids have to come through, the semester of personal finance, that they will be better equipped as college level students to move forward. So my expectations are the same for all levels. How about that, Malachi? Okay.
All right, well, for me, I have the challenge of most of my students are 9th through 12th graders. Or they're mostly 9th graders, but I do have it through 12th grade. So that is a little bit of a challenge for the 9th graders. As for the district trying to fight that battle, what they're looking at is they're really working on trying to get the students to, when they graduate, they have a plan. They're either going to, college or career tech or combination or the military. So they're wanting to get what classes that are required done with 9th and 10th grade. So I just had to focus on my energy and keeping it for the classroom. And I think that's one of the most important things as a teacher is remembering what battles do I fight and where do I put my energy. I tried to do it into having a positive classroom for the students where they feel safe. And because we are entertainers, we're on continuously, let alone with everything else going on. So the biggest thing is with finance, and I think for success for anybody in life, is goal setting. So I really start with goal setting with my finance class and with my careers class. And if I have a student in both classes, they work a little bit on something else, or they can take the time to do something else that they need to work on. But I don't necessarily in the beginning put it towards finances. I just want them to understand what SMART goals are. We work on it. And then we work a little bit more to where, well, what is a realistic financial goal? Well, of course, they think they can go to the mall and get whatever they want to buy. And then when we get into credit, we go back to where, how much may this really cost you if you don't make those payments on time? So in the beginning is the why, and part of it's behaviorism. I go into that, and they're also showing the researchers, I think it's 8 to 11 years old that money habits are formed. I really had to change mine because my family lived paycheck to paycheck and they gambled a lot and whatnot. So I, as a person, learned throughout my life, that those things, choices that I made, and I share those stories with my students. So behaviorism, the why, I go into pay and the money management, and absolutely right about how it's changing. I go through an example of we go line by line about, a checkbook, and I use a document camera, if you're familiar with that, and they go through and do it. And the other thing I think that really trips people up with any time is the self-pay. So the self-pay with the electric, the self-pay with the mortgage. And those are the things, even though they may have it on their phone, but they got to be aware of, what may be coming out and may not be tracked. And I think that's really what messes people up a lot. And then credit. Now, to be perfectly honest, I have a high risk population, and I barely even got to investing in insurance. And that's really sad because of everything that I'm, with the school where I'm at. And I've even cut some things, but I do the best I can do. Now I'm in family consumer science and I have a web exam. Now it is required for most family consumer science classes. Some school districts, they opt out for another way to evaluate. So I also had to be conscious of how are they going to perform on this web exam. So and I didn't put this in the notes, but if you have the web exam or anything time you have an outcome based it's not that I'm teaching to the test per se, but I think it's that you have to be realistic and make them aware of how the testing situation is going to be. So what I do is The tests are multiple choice because the web exam's multiple choice. I also run the classroom like the way that I would do it the day of the web exam. Everything off the desk. I give them paper, pencil, they have their computer, and I have a slide up just like I would the day of the web exam. That way, the day of the web exam, when we have that in December, they're used to it. And I'm not sending the little turds out that are talking or the ones who are on their phone. That was some of the problems that I've had. And last year I really worked on that and I was conscious of it. The web exam day went so much better and I had pretty good results. And if you are an FCS and you have the web exam, just contact me when we can talk one-on-one. The other beauty with family consumer science, with personal finance, a student who takes the web exam and passes it, they get credit for a 3-credit-hour course in personal finance at any public university in the state of Ohio. So that's really cool. I send home a newsletter. I'll be sending that out next week. We start with students next week. I'll be sending that newsletter home and I put a little label on the outside, says $2,000 offer inside. And I have it on a school label. And it's kind of, the kids are like, what do you mean $2,000? So I get them to talk. Another thing I'm doing this year is I'm going to put a little drawing thing in there, bring this in during open house, and I'll have a little gift. And I'm going to have a finance quote on it. So just that motivating, that entertaining, making those connections. So there's my scope and sequence. I only have, I would say the different levels. I also have it's called ESO, early high school. It's 7th and 8th graders. They can choose to take a high school class. They come in for the first period. So that would be just the 7th and 8th graders. I don't necessarily change my curriculum, but sometimes I have to stop and think about how are they exposed or what do they think? But they take the class a lot more serious because they're choosing to come to the high school. But my concern too is if we're teaching this to them at 7th and 8th grade, I think there should be some follow-up in senior year. So did I cover it all? Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I guarantee I'm going to ask the same question, but anyway. So for me, working at institution of higher education, we kind of have our curriculum kind of centralized. However, we have periodic working sessions where all the adjuncts get together with the program administrators and we talk about changes in the curriculum, what's working in the class, what's not working in the class, and things like that to inform what our overall, I guess, what they call it, template is for every class. So that occurs every time there is a change in the requirements or standards by the state of Ohio, as well as any time that we have curriculum changes. So I want to say maybe on average every 2 to 3 years, or 2 to 3 terms. So a typical class will have a wide variety of people from different backgrounds, different age groups in the class. And to Mrs. Schultz's point, I don't necessarily modify the material because it is set to the standard of the state of Ohio. So basically, I just try to modify my messaging toward the audience. So if it is younger population, I may use more modern terminology for things or use examples that they can really draw on and relate to, like wasting money on Jordans or something like that, just to keep them engaged. Also to Mrs. Schultz's point, the best performing students that I have experienced are those who elect to come to the class. So a lot of the College Credit Plus student population that I have, which are the younger students, as well as anybody who is not required to take personal finance as a part of their graduation requirement. And I want to say on average, I get about maybe like 30% of my student population are people who come to the class voluntarily. Another thing to note, class size, I teach no more than 25 students at a time. And I guess for a class to even be available, they have to have a minimum of 8 people who register to take the class. So sometimes we do get attrition and the number falls below that 8 on occasion. Anyway, some of the topics that all of the topics that we cover span everything in personal finance. So similar to how students may view like math in school, like they're going to draw on more of the things that they care about and try to probably forget about the things that they don't. And you can tell the level of interest in different topics based on that. So the first class kind of opens up with a review of the syllabus and the calendar. And our first topic of discussion is an overall view of personal finance, because a lot of students that I encounter may not have even known that personal finance was even a topic. And like, what does that mean? And so we go over budgeting basics, savings. What is that? We talk about the SMART goal setting, similar to what's already been mentioning. We talk about things like getting a bank account and high level credit and things like that. So just a real scraping the surface of what is personal finance in the first class. The following classes kind of go by progression. So after it's like money basics, we talk about goal setting as it refers to like future planning. So career choices, education, and things like that. So we have career chapter, and then it goes into a deeper dive into budgeting and financial statements. So a balance sheet versus a cash flow statement type of thing. Talk The next topics would be tax planning, um, financial services, so banking products and banking options, including like pawn shops and warning people about the paycheck, check cashing places and things of that nature. Then we go into credit, we go into credit scoring, we go into steps to take if you have an issue with your credit. We talk about things that impact your credit and like the full gamut. So it's like credit 101. Next, we talk about different sources of credit and different things that people would save for. So we talk about purchasing a car, purchasing a home, getting insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, life insurance. We go into financial aid. We talk about investments, stocks, bonds, real estate, mutual funds, retirement planning, like literally every single thing that personal finance has to offer. So throughout this time, they are also like building up to sort of like a financial portfolio for themselves. So we're having them track their expenditures over the course of the class. We're having them go out and do uh like a example of going out and buying a car. So all the steps that it would take to go buy a car, where you know have your credit in line, you go and get pre-approved, go out shop for a car. What does a good rate look like versus a bad rate? What does a affordable payment look like? We talk about home ownership versus renting. and all the things that go into figuring out home affordability and things like that. Different examples of those things. And we also do talk about retirement planning in this full-on project that spans the entire time. Previously, we had a stock-focused assignment as well, where since we talk about investing in stocks and things like that, we would have the students go out in the beginning of the term and pick a company that they had a connection to, whether it was their favorite brand or, product or service that they liked, and then find out the financial information for that particular stock. So if it was McDonald's, what is the stock price today? What is the market cap today? And other financial metrics that the students may have been familiar with at the time. And then later on, in addition to that, they would also like kind of write a small paper just to let me understand that they took the assignment seriously. So it would be like a history of the company, what kind of news is happening with the company? Is there any innovation? Is there what kind of new products are coming out with the company and things like that? And then talk about maybe the competition of the company and things like that. And then basically any other vital information that the students would draw on. But there was like some foundational things, and those are the foundational things that they had to come back with. And then through the course of them actually learning the concepts of stocks and how stocks move and different risks and things like that, we built up I guess momentum in them being able to take the information from the first assignment and putting it with current data. So they would take the previous stock price, the previous market cap, and compare it to the current price and current market cap. And then they would figure out the percentage change over time. They would also be required to make a decision as to whether or not they feel like the stock performance was one that they felt was one that they wanted to hold the stock or sell the stock. And then they also had to decide whether or not they would recommend someone else buy the stock. So throughout that process, they worked on obviously writing, which is not required for my class. So English. A lot of people came with foundational skills. Some people needed to have an English class. They also worked on their presentation skills, right? So a lot of them didn't have experience doing that. So this allowed them to exercise that ability as well. So overall, I really, really enjoyed that particular project for the students, especially for people who didn't have a lot of investing knowledge and experience. And I did have some students throughout the entire time actually apply a lot of the concepts learned in class, where they were able to come back and say they refinanced cars, bought a new car, bought a house, started investing, made a lot of money investing. I'm like, can I have some? No. But anyway, yeah, so I think I might have covered everything. Sorry, Malachi.
No, I think that was good. And I
Okay.
think all the answers show each class is very comprehensive and there's a different way to lay it out. But I think the fact is there's just a lot of information to cover if you really want it to be well rounded and you want to give them everything. But this goes to, you just kind of talked about it, but it goes to Yvonne's point that students really don't like financial literacy. They think it's math, they think it's boring, or they have no clue. Um, so if Cindy, Yvonne, where you three share a innovative or assignment or project that you felt was either really good for students, like the content really clicked by delivering it that in that manner, or it just was really cool and interesting that some other teacher could, steal and use it in their class as we start the school year. So we'll start with Yvonne and we'll go back down again.
Okay. Over the years, I did so many different kinds of things, and some things worked really well and some things crashed and burned. One of the best things that I felt over my time at the high school level was to give the kids realistic experiences. I contacted a local car dealership in Cuyahoga Falls where I taught, and I really had a very candid conversation with them about kids learning how to buy a car. And we got on the same page. I said, I don't want them to come and sit through a presentation of how you want customers to act when they come into a car dealership. I want them to understand what they should and should not say when they come in to buy a car. And so we had a really, really great conversation. We loaded them up on a bus one day. We took them to the car dealership, and they learned how to buy a car at the car dealership. And they were just so great about telling kids, these are the things you should say, and these are the things you should never say to a car salesman. And they were very honest with them. And so I thought that was a really great experience for the kids. I was a little nervous when they were getting in, and at that point, like some of the higher end cars were 60,000. I don't know what they are nowadays, but they were getting in them, and they were touching all the buttons. And I was like, oh, don't break a car. Please don't break a car. But the kids loved that experience. One of the other things that the kids really like is when, like we did, of course, the career kind of stuff. They picked out, a career that they were interested in. They focused on, like, what are my interests and skills? How much will I make? And then I made them find an apartment. Well, first of all, I made them find, like, where are these jobs located? So pick a place you want to live. Are there jobs? Find an apartment. How much is it going to cost you to move there? How much are your taxes going to be in that particular community? And we went through the whole scenario and then budgeting to see if they could survive on what they were going to make. And they love doing things like that. And then the other one was the stock market. Like we talked about earlier, is I had kids do a stock market simulation where they were given, $100,000, and I had my college kids do it as well. Yeah. And it really, they get into it really. I had a student, and this was before the kids were walking around with their phones in their hands all the time. And so he would come into my class between every class period. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I got to check my stocks. And every day between every class period, he was in checking his stocks. And I'm like, okay, you're becoming a day trader. We don't want that. Right. But a few years in the future, he was given a pretty large sum of money from his grandparents, and he popped it all into the market afterwards, and he has made a killing. And so he just took everything that he learned in that class and he's used it in his personal life. And I love when I hear and have those stories from my kids. I have had kids say to me, Miss Fed, they used to call me Miss Fed. Well, Malachi calls me Miss Fed. The things that I learned in your class are things that I am using every day in my life. And that makes me so happy when I hear kids say that, because it's real. It's what they need. And so if you have the opportunity to teach a personal finance class, I would just tell you it's very rewarding. It's a great class to teach. It can be fun. It can be entertaining because the kids, they get into some of the things. And it's just so good for them to have the concepts. And one other thing I would like to say is if you feel very nervous about a certain area of the content standards, get an expert in. I've had a gentleman come in from Charles Schwab and go and do the investment piece for me. And so if you are really uncomfortable with a certain area because you don't feel like your background is good enough, bring people in. They love to come in and talk to your kids. So that's what I got.
That was really good advice, all of that. I want to talk about starting the day, the good old daily journal. I did do a document and they're going to send it to you later. So there's an example of my sheet I use. And last year I added some quotes and the kids really like the little money quotes on it. But I think it's really important that you have just a way of, starting the class, talk about methods, but you can use, I also included my slide presentation at some of my questions, and it does need to be cleaned up, but it's beginning of the year and I didn't get to it this summer, but I will. But just to give you an idea, something to jump off of if you decide to do that. And also the NGPF, which is just an amazing, amazing resource. I cannot tell you what they have given to me. And especially during COVID, they were my lifeline, but they are continuing to give to us teachers, and it's free. It's free. So I would suggest an NGPF for a question of the day. I do not use them all the time because they're a little bit more involved. And that's pretty much, sometimes I will use them, or we talk about some of the things, or even some of the questions I can use in my careers class, but I do have those in there. One thing I feel it's important, especially, is building a connection with the students. And one way that I do that is when they're working on their journals. I'll walk around, stickers, you would think high school kids stickers, but if they're working on their journal, or even if they're like getting a pencil out or their book out, but they got their phone away, they're engaged, I'll give them a sticker. And then I just do this quickly. Or if there's a student I need to check in, that's just giving me a chance. Or if, the student may want to share something about the other lesson. And I also put on the sheet about how with grading the journal. So the first one I do, it'd be like day 1 through 5. And then I have a summary at the bottom, a 2-sentence summary about the, that side. And I do have an example that I show them of what some students have done. Also, that's a safe place for the students to ask me a question, or if they want to share something with me. And it's really interesting, some of the things that they've shared with me, sometimes maybe about finance, or sometimes maybe about something, arguing with, a boyfriend or something like that. But they just need to have some place, a safe place that they can share with you as a teacher. Now, so what I do then, I collect it after 1 through 5, I give them feedback on that first one. And then they also can correct it if they don't have something right. And then we're going to go through 6 through 10, do the summary, and then I collect it. So then I just keep mine 1 through, I think I ended up with like 60 for the year. I just go by the numbers. I don't do Monday through Friday. But I have found that then I just grade it, after, every 10. So that way it's just a way to check in. And then I also can use that as a segue for the lesson, for the day. I've even had it where students have suggested, journal questions, which I think is kind of cool. So that is the journal. I think it's one of the old styles of teaching, but I think it's still really powerful, and you can do it electronically too. This is something I've done the last two years, was liquidity. It's always hard for students to understand liquidity and gets, like you said, with the investing in that, that commitment of the time, either money in a CD or with investing or money market account. So what I do is I take a bag of ice, like gallon-sized Ziploc bag, ice in it, throw in some coins and a dollar bill or 2 in it, put in water. Now I do have a freezer in my room, so this makes it easier. Freeze it. And then I go ahead and get those jumbo Ziploc bags. Put the bag in it. You can take the bag out if you want, or just put the slab of ice with water. Put some more money. Now, this year I did do a 20 and a 10 and a 5 just for a little and a couple more ones. Put some more ice in it, put some more water, throw it in the freezer. So then in a day or 2, it's frozen solid. And I do cover it up, and I have not had anyone come in my room and take it. And if I lose $30, I lose $30. So then I get a container that has water in it, and then I'll put in a couple of dollar bills, and I'll also throw in some coins. So then I'll just start the day, and I'll have the frozen there, and I'll have the container with the water and the money, and I'll just get in with my hand, and I'll be like, just not even saying anything and just playing with the money, or you can do whatever, but just trying to grab their attention. And then I'll have the block, and I'll just kind of bang on it, and I'm like, I can't get, what do I do? Can't get to the money. So then we get into, I said, who wants to go for ice cream, or who wants to go to Chick-fil-A? And then they'll say, well, whoa. So then I take the liquid money, I pull it out, and I'll throw it at a kid, and I'll say, go get our food, or go get this. And yes, it's a little water, and it's just more, the drama and the entertaining part. But then I'm like, wait, do we need more money? How are we going to get it over here? It's frozen. They're like, you can't get to it. Well, you could, run it underwater. You could do this, you could do that. And I said, but I need it right now. He's got to go, we're going to be out of class. And so it's just that part, just to make that liquidity, you can get to that money right away. And it's been kind of fun. And it's always been, it's kind of corny. It's kind of simple to do. It just takes time, but it's just that it's that visual to the students. And I did put in a video, no car note, and I did a project through another university, and it was kind of interesting. It was a lesson plan study, and you worked as a group, and then the professors came in and they watched you observe your teaching. And when the professor saw the lesson plan, he's like, "That's a 5-minute video," and he's like, this day and age, that long with the students' attention span now. I mean, I remember when you used to have to remember the projectors with doing the movies. Remember that? And you had to sign it out with the resource center, and you had to get the video or the movie from the library. Things have changed. So anyways, and then he said when he played the movie, and he said he was in bed that night and it just kept going through his mind. It's no car note video. It's really cute, and you'll have the link in that. And here again, a lot of videos are right there at NGPF. They have some with Edpuzzle. Do not kill yourself trying to reinvent the wheel. It's more important that you put your energy into greeting your students and then finding them doing good things and then encouraging them, to continue on with learning. You don't have to constantly manufacture stuff with education. It's just totally different now. But I like NGPF because they have gone through the videos, they're accurate. And I've never really been burned by something that was not really, appropriate. And I always do. I'm just old school with teaching. University of Akron methods class. You always got to look over what you're going to present, because ultimately, you're responsible. I also did put in the sheet of my textbook about that, and there's some little notes. I think the day of going, I was never a teacher to go through, chapter by chapter and doing things, but just use it as a guide. But vocabulary, that is really hard for them to understand. And you just have to work on it. And just those things of like making songs or making word walls or different things like that. And then it's hard for them, but we can't give up. Just the basics, just a vocabulary are really important, or maybe learning the bits of words. But that's it for me. Oh, another resource I use is Everfi, and I do have the link there. There's modules, and I don't totally use it, but the students said they like to, I do an end of course evaluation. Like my first couple of years, oh my goodness, I would cry if the students criticized me. Now I'm like, who cares? That it just helps me to grow. And with Everfi, some like it, some don't like it. Some take off, some don't, but they still do it. But part of that is it's, module self-regulated, and it's just used as a piece. Sometimes they need a break from you. Sometimes you need a break from them. And Everfi does come in handy for that. And here again, for tax simulation, because my class limit's 25, maybe, there are days I might get 16 in the room. There are days I might get 23, 24. So I use Everfi, especially for income tax, because it's a simulation. They can go through it a lot easier than me going around checking all the forms for the students. So that's for Everfi. And I didn't put that note on the paper, but definitely the tax simulation with Everfi is very powerful to use with the students. And that's all I have for now. Thank you for being here.
All right. So for me, I already sort of went through a lot of the like big name, big flashy assignments that I had for the students. But one thing that I did want to share is that because my student population is a little older, one thing that I do promote and practice is like sharing of personal experiences in the classroom. So if I had a personal experience that I can share, I would definitely start the process, because a lot of people don't really feel comfortable sharing their personal experience and information in front of strangers. I always set the stage on day one, like this is a safe space, no judgment, so everyone can, feel that. So like I lead by example and share my own personal experiences. However, I also lean on the fact that I haven't experienced everything, right? So on occasion, we'll have a student that may have gone through like a bankruptcy, right? So then I'll let that student talk about their experience, right? And if they feel comfortable sharing, right? And then also I have several times had the opportunity to have students who may have been my previous students that had experience using certain financial tools that will be useful for the whole student body, to actually come in and present and do like a walkthrough demonstration on a specific tool. So one thing that comes to mind is the I don't know if it's through TD Ameritrade anymore, but like the Thinkorswim tool, right? It's an investment thing that people can go in and do like demo investing and things like that. So I had a student who was really well versed in that. So when we had our investing chapter, I allowed him to come in and do a walkthrough demonstration similar to what you've all kind of alluded to, allowing practitioners who have better experience or knowledge than you, and also allowing the students to see the possibility of, you know, being well versed in the subject matter enough to share their experiences with others. So like having that student be an example of like, okay, this is one of my past students. They've successfully went through this class and they actually gained some knowledge that they want to come back and share with you, so it's kind of like a motivational opportunity. And also it has driven students in the past who may not have been as interested in finance to even like either do a double major or even switch their major. So, I mean, I'm not trying to pat my own back here, but I'm just saying like personal finance can really change, lives. So a couple tools that I use in the classroom is I'm like a big fan of the St. Louis Fed videos. I use those to supplement a lot of the time, to Ms. Schultz's point, that they might need away from me and I might need away from them. So they are, some of them do have a younger kind of messaging methodology. However, I don't deviate from using them for all the entire class, not like, oh, I only use this for the younger class or the older class or whatnot. So they are appropriate for my level of teaching. So I use them pretty religiously. Another tool that I use, not necessarily a resource, but I like to have interactivity from a review standpoint, trying to make review fun and not boring. So we use Kahoot in the class, and like I said, college level, but guess what? They still love logging in and playing and competing against each other. And I try to be their cheerleader the entire time too, like especially if majority of class or even just a single person gets something right, I try to like, be very supportive in that regard. But yeah, since I already kind of shared my big flashy projects, I've said enough. So let me know if you have any questions, and thank you.
Can I add one thing? I don't know who our audience is, but if you are a first year teacher, when we were talking about like sharing personal experiences, don't be surprised at the things that your students might share with you about their personal experiences at home. I've heard some crazy things about the repo man and about being evicted from their homes. And I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. And so kids will share if if you have not been in the classroom for long and you haven't taught this, they are seeing things at home, and that's what they're learning. And so a lot of times it's our charge to teach them another way. So
Thank you. We're going to pivot over to the Q&A portion now. So you can type questions in the chat. You can turn your mic on and ask them if you have, one directly for one of the speakers. We want to open it up so that those on the call can ask any follow-up questions or pick the brains of the speakers on a certain topic or anything. So any questions that we have, we're going to open it up for that. I'm monitoring the chat everywhere. Anything? If you don't have any questions, I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Magooth to do our close. But I want to first say thank you to all of you for being here. I learned a lot. Not teaching financial literacy, but I do have a deep appreciation for it, being working so closely with Dr. Magooth and Yvonne for so long. So thank you all, and being in Yvonne's class. She's always this great. Don't worry. This is always her. So I'll give it back to Dr. Magooth if he's here.
Yeah, hey, what amazing stories. I remember when Senate Bill 1 was being deliberated at the Ohio State House and listening to kids from across the state of Ohio testify on how important financial literacy was to their future. And this is a subject that kids want to learn about. It's a really important subject. Good financial decision making. We know that if we can help people, the implication that can have for families and communities and our country and so forth. Just coming off that class this summer, that grad class teaching financial literacy, we always start with a dose of healthy skepticism. Folks kind of being like vigilance. There's a lot of folks out there that'll take your money. That's for sure. And there's a lot of banks out there that have curriculum dedicated to advancing financial literacy. The same folks that are making money, right, off of all these fees and have curriculum. So it's like a little bit of healthy skepticism, like what's purposely invisible here in the curriculum and why isn't it there? And what do they want us to know, not know? But that kind of criticality around decision making, so interdisciplinary. It's a great subject, connections to art and music and government and math and business and family. It's just great, just such a powerful place to build these connections and these bridges. And obviously the guest speakers and bringing folks in from industry, meeting, building, getting us out of our silo, right? To build these connections. It's really important. It's really happy that you're able to join us today, and just kudos to our panelists in opening up their classrooms, sharing insights with us about how they've been able to do this so successfully. Truly appreciate it. I'm going to go and just share just a few things in closing. First off, we have an exciting 2024-25 year ahead of us at the Barker Center. More information will be coming out, but a few things. We have the nation's Financial and Economic Education Conference happening in Cleveland this year. Last year it was in Miami. The year before that it was like in Atlanta. Cleveland's playing host. It's the nation's largest gathering of financial economic education, K-12 educators from all over. The Barker Center is helping to organize this with the Council for Economic Ed. I think Yvonne's going to be on a panel there on the Senate Bill 1 and its possibilities, pitfalls in the Buckeye State. But for those of you that may be interested in joining the hundreds of teachers that teach financial literacy, want to share that opportunity with you. It's really exciting. It's in our area. And then next summer, some things just with the Barker Center, we have our state conference, the Ohio Teaching Financial Literacy Conference that'll be happening in Akron. That's going to be in July 14th and 15th. That'll be really exciting. Teachers all across from Ohio get to come to Akron to have conversations with exhibitors and folks in industry about teaching financial literacy. But then also we have our study tour to Germany and Poland for teachers. That applications have just opened. There's scholarships available. We hope folks will take advantage of that. that's going to be a really powerful learning opportunity for folks. Make sure you stay updated on things that are happening. We've got our newsletter that goes out every month. Aliana does such a great job in the Barker Center putting that together. The QR code is here in the presentation. We'll send this out as well, but just make sure that you stay up to date on things that are happening, opportunities. We are on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't connected with us, please do that. Folks, just really, really thankful for you to join us today, for your participation, engagement. We're always here as a resource. We hope our paths cross here again in the future. And on behalf of the Barker Center, we're truly, truly wishing you a wonderful, wonderful start to your to the new academic year. It's a pleasure to connect with you. Have a really, really wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you.